audio mullet. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you're listening. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. It makes me happy. It makes me high as a kite. And I'm here with my partner, my co-host. Everything sounds like a total innuendo now. Sounds like my longtime personal man buddy.
My man partner.
Yeah, you're like a life mate.
Yeah, hetero life mate.
My hetero, purely platonic, mostly, life mate, Ethan Nicole. I'm Doug TeNapel. Your beard's looking shaggy. They can't see you on camera, but I can. Now. You have like a Jonah Goldberg growing off each side of your face. Jonah Goldberg's back growing off each side of your face. Look at that. It's like Don King.
Yeah, it's getting pretty shaggy. It's I don't know if it's when you just spend your time writing jokes, you just become more and more shaggy looking. Because if you ever go into a writer's room, it looks like a homeless, like if you took a homeless shelter and then gather everybody up, put everybody in like flannels and sneakers and jeans, and then just got them to like take a shower like a week ago instead of 6 months ago. Because
we always joke about writers being alcoholics. But they don't look like alcoholics in the writer's room. They look like bums.
Yeah, they look like they just hit the bong.
Yeah. If you actually go to an AA meeting, they're actually pretty snappy dressed. They don't look like writers.
I've never been to an AA meeting, but yeah.
I've been to a ton. I mostly go just for fun to laugh at people as I guzzle my whiskey. Remember in the 80s, everyone was supposed to be an alcoholic. It was like witch hunt alcoholics. We were all like looking at my dad because he drank a lot of beer. Mm-hmm. We're going like, we got to get him to AA. He's an alcoholic. And then all these other things formed, like adult children of alcoholics, which is like fake. It was like a total fake group therapy thing. And I went to one of those. My new age aunt was always going, Doug, we're going to do this. And I go, okay. And we would all go. And it was just like weirdos. But they were all snappy dressed. Maybe it was because of the 80s. Mullet.
I've been to a few OA meetings, which is Overeaters Anonymous, because I have had to admit that I have an issue with the way that I eat. But I find it very difficult when I'm in there. I'm very judging and
like you're not even trying.
There's a large number of people.
What step are you on? What step are you on, Gigantor?
No, I'm still. That's the thing. One thing I was looking forward to about going to OA was thinking finally, it's going to be nice to not be the fattest guy in the room for once. And I go in, it's packed with skinny people, and they're not skinny because they like overcame. They're skinny because they have other kind of eating disorder where they throw it up.
Oh, God, you're killing me.
So I'm just like, that doesn't count. Come on.
What are you faker? What are you doing
sit
here?
And tell me you have a disorder when you look that good. I'm trying to bare my soul. I can't do that in front of you people.
I love it. The fat guy goes to OA and it's all full of skinny people.
They're all skinny.
It's like, why are you guys here? Yeah. All your problems are solved.
If I could get myself to throw it all up, I'd be great.
I don't have your willpower. I don't have your strength.
No, I want to enjoy it. I hate the taste of barf.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, man. Now we're way off. I don't even know if we have a topic. Forget the topic.
We have topics.
I always want to know what you're working on because I never talk to you between shows anymore.
Yeah,
you're like a stranger.
Literally, the only time we talk is on this show.
Yeah.
It's way more than we used to talk, though, so that's cool. It's cool we do it.
I know, because we wouldn't talk to each other for like months. We're busy. We're workaholics. We're family men.
I'm currently, I just started doing the audiobook for Ollie Possum, which is coming out in October for a Halloween release. I'm excited about that. It's a spooky kids book, so I'm excited to work on that. Lots of Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee podcast is a ton of work, and all that. I'm putting together a Babylon Bee book, so I'm doing that book. Still working on Bearmageddon. I was just working on that today.
Yeah.
The life project it's turned into.
Yeah. I'm going to start a new website called the Scabalon Bee.
Okay.
It's basically, I do parodies of Babylon Bee. It's a parody of parody.
Parody of parody. Okay.
Yeah. Where I treat it straight.
I'm excited.
I don't know. You guys write so many articles about yourself. It's like you had to do that for me.
Yeah.
You guys just became like your own meme. When Snopes came after you, they just provided too much material.
The Snopes thing. Well, I have learned since I've come on board the Babylon Bee how much. Our articles really are driven by shares, and we still will do articles we know aren't going to get a lot of shares. But the ones that are going to get a lot of shares are almost always politics or Snopes. Like, there's just people are into this Snopes thing. A lot of people came on board the Babylon Bee because of the Snopes controversy. Our audience has massively grown because of it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Thank you, Snopes, for being so immoral that you blew up my audience.
Well, it got us to mention, Kyle's writing op-eds for the Wall Street Journal, and Seth's on Fox, and we're all over all these. There's on everything. David French is writing. We got to
get you on Fox.
Yeah, get me on Fox.
Let's get you on Fox.
No, Kyle's smoother talker than I am. My voice cracks.
But still, they treat you like the bastard child just because you do mostly Photoshop work.
Yeah, no,
it's like on Gilligan's Island. You're before it was the professor and Marianne. It was and the rest. You're the and the rest.
Well, no, I still. Because I do feel like I'm kind of I'm lucky to be the guy that's I'm doing the podcast and I'm basically kind of the third man in line, and I didn't create it, and I'm just kind of came on board, so they treat me pretty good. Me and Kyle have fun. We have an office now, so we're in there.
Yeah, and you park Kyle's car.
Yeah, bring him his coffee, trim his beard. That's why I can't trim mine. I'm always trimming his.
Oh. Yeah. Babylon Bee. Oh yeah, so you're famous. For those of you who don't know, Ethan's big time at the Babylon Bee. It's so funny because you do these giant projects that blow up, then you just go, as soon as they're done, you're just instantly obscure.
No,
you just vanish off the face of the earth.
Well, XCOP really did kind of come to an end.
These things.
I couldn't really continue it. It didn't really work to continue it, so. I didn't want to be that beat a dead horse guy that's always like the guy sitting in Artist Alley, I'm the X-Cop guy. Remember me? The X-Cop guy?
Yeah. You mean like that guy that did Earthworm Jim? Remember?
I mean, I might reboot.
Remember Earthworm Jim?
Actually, I was thinking about doing an X-Cop reboot. Not a reboot, but I got to find out the legality of it, but I'd really like to do a big hardcover collection of all the X-Cop comics in one big fancy book, like a Kickstarter. Oh, yeah. Because...
Does Dark Horse have the rights to that? Is that
Dark
but all
the contracts have defined the contract is up on all of them, I think. But I don't know.
Then just do it.
I don't know if there's anything with until they run out of printed copies on their end or any. But I can't get answers from them or from my attorney to even take the time to look. So
that's permission. That sounds like permission to me.
Just ignoring me.
I think the rule is if they don't actively publish, do a printing within a certain amount of period, it reverts back to you completely.
Anyway, so I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Do that.
Because it's the 10-year anniversary. 2020 is going to be the 10-year anniversary of the release of XCOP.
You can make a ton of money, Ethan, on I'm doing Indiegogo.
Yeah, I was going to do Indiegogo. That's what's inspiring me. I'm watching you milk that worm.
Well, let's go. Let's get milking on XCOP. Yeah. There are no sexual innuendos. I will not acknowledge them.
All right. So what are we talking about? We were looking through tweets a while back, and I had asked people for ideas for topics. So we wrote a few of them down, and we're gonna we have 3 here. We might not make it through all 3. We'll see how beefy they are. It's a nice variety, though. So
yeah, well, we'll see. Hold on one second. We got to mention Area 51 and Taylor Swift. Oh, that'll get you a lot of views if you title it Area 51.
You say that's
and
the
Taylor
topic.
Swift. Yeah, that should be the topic, and then not address it. It's clickbait. I tried it out on a show yesterday on my YouTube channel. I titled it Taylor Swift raids Area 51 and almost got shot. And I went from my normal 700 views on my show to 3,300 views. It's the exact same show we always do, but I titled it that. It's all fake, Ethan. All of these clicks. All of the commentary guys fighting over Ricochet and Babylon Bee and Jonah Goldberg. They just put a witty title in there. All of their views are fake.
Yeah, I have learned that too with the Babylon Bee podcast. If I can find a little bit more of a provocative title, they get more listens.
Yeah, so it turns us all more hostile. The internet is turning us all more hostile because you get attention. Mm-hmm. Everyone, I don't know why I'm the last person on the planet to learn this. You get more attention.
Yeah. But I think someone's going to get something juicy.
All right, topic.
Okay, so our first question or recommended topic is from Alex Hates, who's a very...
Oh, yeah, Alex Hates. I like
he's
that.
an avid responder to tweets, and we see him a lot on Twitter. Cool guy. We like him.
Yeah. People may not know this, but I actually gave him full access to my Twitter account, so he has my password and everything. He can sign in as me. And I have him scrub my tweets like every couple months.
Like delete your old bad
ones. He removes
ones.
them all. Yeah. I say, I need a fresh start. My mouth's going to get me in trouble. And he goes in and he deletes them all because I don't know how to do it.
I've had that happen to me with a lot of, like I'll have interactions with bigger famous people sometimes. Like they'll reply to me and then I'll want to go back and show somebody or go back and remember that moment that, I get talked to that famous person and then it's gone. Like, I don't know if that's just a thing that people with bigger followings do or something. They just...
So you're saying you preserve the amazing wit that you lay down on Twitter and you're afraid that you'll lose it?
No, like I'll have a conversation. Well, like the person that I specifically remember, which is, he is a friend, was Scott Derrickson. We had this like funny, we both decided in DMs that we were going to pretend to fight on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and then we
good
fought, jokingly fought about this. I can't remember what we were doing because we had kind of...
Was this around was this when you directed Doctor Strange?
Was. But then when I went back to look at it, he had deleted all his replies. So I just looked like I was arguing with nobody.
What a jerk. See, Scott.
He said he does it all the time. He said he deletes his... He likes to have his feed be only like his really profound statements.
Yeah, I just want them to be the statements that I remember from this week, and I want the rest to go away.
Interesting. Yeah, I delete every time. I never delete a tweet. The only time I delete a tweet is if I make a typo. It's so bad I have to delete it and redo it. Pretty much.
Oh, that's way too... That's just anal retention. Okay, what did Alex
he said,
ask?
And we can get into kind of just the general topic of church, but he said it seems like finding a good church that preaches sound doctrine often doesn't have people who are easy to engage with. The honest and real churches are theologically loose and charismatic. The doctrinal churches are rigid and idealistic or legalistic. But I thought it'd be interesting just to talk about going to church. I think that's very mullety, just going to church on Sunday these days.
It is very mullety, but I really like what he brought up. It's making me think.
Yeah. So the idea that fun churches don't generally have great teaching. Churches with great teaching are generally... I mean, I don't even know how you find a church with great teaching.
Yeah, you're in LA, so I'm sorry.
Out here.
They don't legally allow
survive out here.
I'm in Tennessee, so we have both kinds of churches on every corner. First of all, is it true?
Yeah, I wonder, is it true?
Because my sense is it is kind of true. I've been to so many dead churches that were dead on theology-wise. Like a lot of Reformed ones are just so... That's why they call them the frozen chosen. Doesn't that sound like fun? The Calvinist churches that are Reformed.
Oh, Doug's like sneezing or something.
And I coughed. I used my cough button like a pro. I'm a pro!
That's impressive. I never do that.
I could write for Babylon. I could do Photoshop for Babylon Bee. And then it is true that, remember, what was the church, the rock and roll church you went to in LA? What was the
Ecclesia
church? Ecclesia. Wasn't that nice?
Yeah, I was right down in like Hollywood, like on the Walk of Fame. Like you're walking on those stars as you go to the church, and it's an old museum, or not museum, an old theater.
Yeah, the Arrested Development guy, Tony Hale used to go there. Like there were celebrities would show up, rock stars.
It was like
personalities
totally
would go.
There's all singles there looking for their future.
Yeah.
But no, once they got married and had kids, they'd like ditch that place.
Oh yeah, move on. It's no more fun time when you have kids. So, and even in my church here in Tennessee, they have a lot of in Tennessee they have amazing bands, right? Because they're all professional musicians. You don't have any suck worship music. In fact, they're the ones that write the music for everybody else. And just amazing big screen and stuff like that. They do read the Bible, but it's nowhere near as tight and kind of driven like the Reformed churches. So here's my theory. This is what started making me think. I wonder if when you get your theology right you naturally get less flexible.
Less flexible. I mean, it makes sense to me that getting deep, the deeper you get in, just like it's like with any topic, you know, if people are generally interested in a topic, then you can be general and then you can get a bigger audience. The more specific you get, the more people have to, the more homework they have to have already done or dug in. So it narrows your audience. So it kind of makes sense to me that the preacher from the pulpit on Sunday morning would be talking a little more general, and then you could have your Sunday school or extracurricular classes for things that get a little more involved. But I also think that you could go, I think a lot of churches get into making it more of a self-help kind of thing. And that's what
sells, all those bro churches are. It becomes therapy. It's like, I don't go to, even at my church, like they had like a second year not leadership, but like discipleship class. So the first year is all scripture. Second year, they bring out enneagrams.
I keep hearing about these things.
That's when like they give you a number. They're like, oh, you're such an 8, you're such an 8-2 or whatever. I'm like, F you. I'm not coming to church for therapy. It's not in the Bible. Don't give me this 8-2 personality stuff. Show me the book. I'll go get that from my new age, parlor game. I come to the church for the truth of the scriptures to be unpacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like there's kind of two kinds of, not two, but I mean, there's a large amount of people in the church that they kind of put the, is it all really true? What's the evidence? Blah, blah, blah stuff. Like they kind of brush that off to the side, and then we're like, I like the therapy side of it, like how it makes me feel about, it gives me motivation for things and helps me overcome my anxiety or whatever. And then there's the other half, or not half, but there's another group.
It makes me feel whole.
That's kind of the like, I mean, whatever. We want to get into the, why is it real? Like, let's talk about, I would be fascinated to even just to get into like the actual history of scripture. Like, what was the context historically of like a lot of scripture,
Yeah. Preachers never get into apologetics like that. I don't understand why they don't preach that more from the pulpit, unpack the historicity of the Bible, because I went to church like so much of my teens and high school where I had these hard questions, and it just felt like there was a preacher always telling me to obey this thing. They never told me about the veracity of the scriptures. And then as I look at the scriptures, of course, it only demands you preach. And it says give an answer when asked or whatever, but that's kind of that's a minimal part of the New Testament. By far the New Testament is full of just by caveat, speaking and preaching. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're just doing their job. The feel-good stuff I don't get at all, because they avoid every difficult topic unless it's criticizing things that are that Trump said that passive-aggressively. They won't mention his name, but it'll be like, look, we must avoid divisiveness. Even though Jesus said, you say I come to bring peace, but I brought a sword.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I also, like, the best church I ever went to, the pastor was actually, he wasn't a great preacher.
Yeah.
He could not, it was one of the most fascinating things. I mean, this old church in Coos Bay, my small town, they had this old pastor who had been doing this, had the same dwindling congregation since like the 50s. And it was Christian Missionary Alliance, and they sent someone in and said, this church is not growing, it's not making its payments at all, it's not, you guys are just kind of dying, and they said, we now bring a new younger pastor in to help you guys try to grow.
And they bring in a guy in Gwar armor. Hello, everybody. Well,
it was this guy named Scott who had been a youth pastor out in, of all places, Moses Lake, which is where my family's from, out in Washington. And so he came in and it caused a giant rift, church split. And so the old pastor, this guy named Bernie, just took off with all the old people, and like 4 families stayed behind. So this guy Scott, who's the best guy ever, loves C.S. Lewis, loves all this, he studies deep. The church dies off. It basically dies, but they give him a time period to try to revive it. And he's the guy that connected with all of us, like the band guys. So we started going, and he kind of had this,
was he Young Life? Because didn't you?
I came in through Young Life, but he was actually after I'd kind of been going through post Young Life. going through some doubt stuff and trying to. When I had come to Christ through Young Life, and so I had realized that my faith was so connected to Young Life that I felt like I needed to find it outside of that. It felt almost cult-like, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he started, because there was just so few people going, they started having church in the basement where they'd kind of set up sort of a coffee shop thing down there. And it was such a small congregation, there was no way it was going to last. But those... and he didn't... His preaching was so like... Because he was trying to get into deep stuff. It was almost more discussion-like, but he would like... He was this guy. We'd go to the coffee shop in town, and we'd read some C.S. Lewis. And by the end of the discussion, the entire coffee shop had joined in the discussion, and like all the chairs were made into a big circle, and there were atheists and people of other faiths, and like we're all talking about deep ideas. Like,
he was actually doing the church's work.
It was really good. And the sad thing is, to me, he was one of the greatest pastors ever, but he was really bad at the talking, the speech part of it. Because he couldn't sort his thoughts out like that. Because he really wanted to get into questions that were hard to unpack. And
and I really love a good preacher. I'm telling you, the guys that can run a room and are great public speakers and are super engaging. Like I have favorite pastors, and it's like if I'm going to sit here, and then there's the least favorite, the wet blanket pastor. And he's kind of like
the Disney,
this guy,
the Disney
this
guy pastor.
Yeah, and then and even like guys that we sit around are kind of looking at each other going like, do we have to stay?
Yeah.
It's so rude. And it's like a talent show.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the hard thing about that, because Scott, it failed. I mean, the church fell apart, and I think it really hit him hard, and he went off, and he just does like carpentry work now. He just works building houses, and he pretty much threw in the towel on preaching and teaching, and it was a bummer to me. If he had a church, I would go to it.
He should open another one up.
I think he tried.
Yeah, you can't look at the numbers. Yeah. You know, it's like it's the kind of the potency is your flock, and there's nothing in the Bible that says your flock has to be a certain number of people. They were
Well, that's the. I mean,
preaching
I'm
in
sure
living
he's
rooms,
doing studies and doing stuff like that. I think that's the weird thing about ministry as a job. It does become a thing where you need to make money. When I did paid ministry at Young Life for 2 years, that was weird. Suddenly it became this thing where I was trying to sell myself to parents. Like, I'm going to help your kids meet Jesus, and hoping they'll.
Then they pay you.
Yeah, and I'd have to raise my own money.
Help them.
It was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done. It was really hard. Didn't like it.
Yeah, it is. I am weird on the whole. I like the idea of pastors having a vocation. Yeah. Fine. Make all the money you want, buy your car, have your house. It really is more it feels like the immoral tie of payment to congregation size that starts getting weird. Because suddenly there does seem to be like a necessity to keep that church big, to make it stable. I go to churches where I feel like if I left this church, this thing would go under. That's the church I do not want to go to. The one where I have to be there. Yeah, it's always like really awful music, really awful preaching. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, if I leave, this place is going to collapse. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to get out of here. I want to hurry up and make it collapse now.
Well, in some ways, that's kind of how our current church is. Not that our tithe is keeping it afloat, but that we've already lost a lot of people, and it's but it's a small community.
In Rancho
it's so hard
Cucamonga.
to find a small community church out here, and because everything's big out here, and everything's big and expensive.
Well, LA rent.
The rent's expensive.
How are you going to pay LA rent if you don't have rich people coming?
But it's a community that we just love. I mean, my wife, when I met her, she was going here. They really helped her out through, the previous marriage that fell apart before I met her, and she really went through hell, and they were there for her. And there's people there. I mean, there's people there who like basically paid her rent for a certain amount of time when she was homeless, and just so there's really close relationship ties there. And I love the pastor; he's a really good guy. So to me, I have kind of decided like my priority at church is community, because that's the hard thing to find. You can find good teaching on the internet. You can find it all over the place.
You can't find community on the internet. It's true.
So for me, that's number one.
getting back to kind of our topic that we talked about offline regarding church, we're seeing now, this generation more and more would rather go to an online church than a real church if they go at all. We tend to not read our Bibles, stuff like that. What is it? And so we've already said going to church is kind of mullety, and you've said what's important about it. Why still go? Why do you go on Sunday morning? There's a million other things to do, especially when you don't feel like it.
For me, it is, part of it is that it makes my faith a little more real. Like, it's just, I think it's important to be around other people. That I think one tendency that I don't like that we have as people is that we will congregate around our own kind, as far as like same age, same like interests, same everything. And one thing about the church that I find really fascinating, because a lot of things don't do this, but at the church, you're going to be around people of all different backgrounds. They may all have the same faith, but there's going to be old people there. There's going to be people of different races there. There's the whole utopia that the left is always trying to act like they're going to create. Like, it's at church. When you go there, there's a whole variety of people there. It's a rainbow. And
that church I went to in Glendale, it had so many. There were gays. There was like half the congregation was black, and no one ever.
Yeah,
brought
you don't bring it up. That's the thing.
You don't have to do like equal opportunity hiring to force them in. It's like we're united by Christ.
Yeah.
So it naturally draws all these different kinds of people together.
Yeah, and you'll have artsy type people. You'll have like guys that are, log truck drivers or whatever, and just
certified public accountants.
And you're all sitting around talking and getting to know each other and becoming friends. And to me, that's a really big part of why I go to church. Because it almost feels like it's like the one way that I can still be part of the human race and not cocoon myself off.
Yeah. And it's being obedient. The Bible says, do not forsake the meeting of the brethren. I think it knows that there has to be community. There has to be discipleship. At some point, there has to be face-to-face between the Christian family. And that it happens once a week is great, and something where there's so many times I don't feel like going to church. There's lots of times I don't go to church. Not lots of times, a few times that I don't go to church during the year because I just don't feel like it. And I always just get like this empty knot in my gut afterwards. Like, it's not guilt. It's just I'm not connected to a community. It makes me feel very alone. As a dad, as a husband, as just an American, I'm just like, it makes me feel very cut off and alone, to a point that I go, you don't feel like going, but you need to go because you don't want to feel all that empty thing in your stomach later this week when you didn't meet with your brothers. Yeah,
so highly recommended.
Yeah, go to church, find a good one. Do shop. Find one that you want to, but also be careful what you wish for. Like, sometimes what you want may not be what you need. As far as
it is hard finding a good church. One that it's just weird. It's like anything you're trying to fit in, or just, especially when you're single. When I was single, I was church hopping like crazy out here because it just.
Oh man, if I was single, you know me, I'd be going to so many churches looking for girls to date.
Yeah, that's what I pretty much settled on when I started going to Ecclesia. I was just like, you know what, my real motivation for going to church at this point in my life is finding a wife, and this is the best. This is my best chance at this place, which I didn't find my wife there. But
the place that you said was a meat market. Good thing you didn't find your wife there.
Well, maybe I was using the term improperly. It just mean that everybody was trying to hook up.
So let's wrap that up. Let's go on to the next topic. Where are we at?
Yes, the next one's from Jesse Whiteman, another avid Twitter responder, follower. We love Jesse.
His name is actually
Whiteman, but it's spelled Wight.
Boy, a lot of love for him. In culture
Ironically,
today.
He's black. Just kidding. I don't know if he.
Yeah. No, and he's on my Twitter too. I like him.
He's got the best attitude of anybody on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking, what are you doing on Twitter?
So he says cynicism and or sarcasm in the local church body and in our society writ large. Where do we draw the line here? Thanks for sharing.
He's passive aggressively at me.
I think he sent one to us too at the the Babylon Bee, I think. Let me see.
So cynicism
Yeah.
and sarcasm. Because we have brutal tongues. The Bible warns all over the place about tongues, setting fires, and man can tame. He can tame, all of these wild animals, but he can't tame his own tongue. Mm-hmm. And there's something really kind of brutal about sarcasm, the yeah, right kind of thing. And it's kind of how we communicate now, is through insult, even our friends. Like, you insult each other to show warmth and to show that you're on the same team.
Yep.
So we're a brutal, insulty, communicating society, and we're even more brutal against our enemies, man. The tongue. Goodness, you find someone you're ready to unleash on, and culture has given you full permission to do and say anything sarcastic, mean-spirited, to tear them apart and get your points.
Yeah, and that's also the weird thing about.
So where do you draw the line?
I mean, I always try to remember in every interaction that for me, like, there are all these things, there are all these issues, there's politics, there's all these things, but first and foremost, when I'm talking to another human being, they're a human being, and I need to remember that. So that keeps me from
made in the image of God,
stuff like that. You see all the time on Twitter. You are garbage.
Yeah, I don't do the human garbage ever, and I don't believe that about anyone.
And I do
either.
try to
I don't believe in human garbage.
I think it's because that's the weird thing about Twitter and most social media. When other people are reading, a lot of times you're not making your point for the person you're talking to. You're making the point for the people watching.
Yeah.
And I mean, even that's kind of what podcasts are too. And we're talking to each other, but we're talking to whoever's listening. I think that's something I think is great about podcasts like this one, where we know each other so well, we are able to disconnect from that, and we really can almost forget that people are listening. But a lot of media, I mean, pretty much all media it's not candid. But I think it's just something to keep in mind, to not.
It's a performance friendship.
To not be talking to the audience or the whoever's reading your feed, to be always thinking of that and what's going to get you the most likes and the most attention.
It just sucks. I can't think for the life of me to justify it in any way. It just sucks.
Well, I think there is a good side. I mean, there's interesting. I mean, the amount that is. I don't know. I mean, we'd probably be better off without it. So I don't know if it's worth getting into the good side.
Yeah. How can you? I can't defend it just because I do it and enjoy it and like tearing people apart. How can I defend that? It's like, meh.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think I had my days where I would try to tear people apart especially on like our old Lunaractive forum where I had my band when I had first discovered you. Yeah, I was like trying to be a little Doug TenNapel, but it's just not me. And it was. At Twitter, I find it exhausting trying to make a point with that few amount of characters. So that's another thing about Twitter, like. You can't make a good point. You can't make a deep point. It really works better for throwing an insult or
it's made to throw knives. Yeah. And there've been lots of days where I said, I'm just gonna bring truth, goodness, and beauty out with my Twitter. And I'll just like quote a scripture or whatever. And then, some guy says something sideways, some stupid idiot defending abortion or something. And I'm just like, oh, you baby killer. Mm-hmm. And then aren't I barbed and aren't I, daring? It's just it's a hollow victory.
Well, I think at the Babylon Bee, one thing that gets seen as cynicism and sarcasm, a lot of our jokes about the church are, a lot of them are in love. We're kind of just picking on the church in ways that I don't think you could from,
But
from
you
outside
are hard on worship music.
Yeah.
I'm just going, dude, what is up your butt about worship music? Babylon Bee. Those are the ones that I know. Those are the ones that I know you find the most delicious and funny, and they're the ones that I always find the least delicious and funny of Babylon Bee.
Really?
Yeah, really. Huh. It's not even a critique because I just go, it's just part of the panoply of what they put out. I'm fine with that, but those are the ones where I don't go like, There was a couple of them. If you're making a secondary
I think
point
a lot of it,
besides-
because me and Kyle both have been worship leaders, so I think we make jokes from like a worship leader's perspective.
Yeah. Like
Just
if you
the
make fun of worship
showiness
leaders, if you make fun of worship leaders having tattoos, then I'll agree with it. That's always funny to
skinny
me.
jeans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We do a lot of those. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it is a fine line. I mean, trying laughing at yourself and but I think our goal isn't to to say don't worship or even to change what's going on. It's just laughing at the stuff that isn't really in scripture. It's cultural.
Yeah.
And
Haven't
almost
you
just
heard
acknowledging that like we shouldn't make these things. There's so many things Christians try to pretend are scriptural and they're really not. Like it's just a thing we've added on. And I feel like that's the stuff that we try to joke about.
Don't you think that but haven't you heard that like all humor is inherently immoral because it's at the cost of someone else? That you're taking them down a notch, someone in power or something just kind of that's a given that you want to deflate. Someone's always the butt of a joke. Worship leader.
So like, how did the chicken cross the road? It's like the chicken's the butt of the joke?
To get to the other side. Well,
or
it
is
might
it the guy who doesn't know the answer?
Yeah, it's the guy that doesn't know the answer because then you burn him with, to get to the other side, dummy. You know what I mean? It's there inherently someone is taking some kind of a fall and we laugh at falls even when we create the fall in a joke. We're laughing at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I buy that, but I can see how it does make me wonder what humor would look like in a perfect world where we all have perfect hearts. If it would it exist? What would it be like? Because I do think that
and laughter is so important. Like it makes you feel so good, and to have a belly laugh, especially at something that is not like verbally based, but something that is just a wonderful accident that is hilarious. Like cats. A cat will just walk along, and if he falls off the couch, it's like he took the fall. He is incredibly funny, and I don't want that not to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I clearly didn't think this through before we started talking about it.
Well, we never think. We don't think a whole lot. But.
I mean, there is sarcasm in the Bible if you want to go get all about the Bible, but
yeah, sarcasm and humor and burning insults.
Yeah, the prophets of Baal.
Yeah, and you brood of vipers and whitewashed sepulcher and good works being filthy rags and things like that. These are huge insults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do love when he goes, "Where's your God? Is he on vacation? Is he sleeping?"
Yeah. It's full of sick burns. So, but that doesn't justify all of my sick burns. But just it's on the table. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think we're talking with humor too. You're talking about something so primal, so deep in the person that to unpack it here and talk about it, it almost doesn't make sense because
it's very deep. But even like, what about cynicism? Like I even have a tough time defining what that means.
Okay, cynicism, to be cynical, right?
Yeah, isn't it like see the bad side of everything and kind of be a downer?
Yeah, an unhealthy disbelief, maybe unwarranted disbelief. Like you just don't believe anything. I'm so cynical. Like, yeah, right. Like anything matters. When I think about that, when I talk about politics, man, politics gets me so cynical. I'm like, yeah, right. But even with guys, whether if they're pro-Trump or against him, I'm like, like you're helping.
The dictionary definition says an inclination to believe that people are motivated purely by self-interest, skepticism.
Wait, but that's true.
So always questioning the motivation of everything, that it always comes from a bad place, I guess.
But that's what I generally believe. Is that everything is
That's
motivated.
why it's so tempting to believe it.
But what if it's true?
Well, is it?
Yes. People are almost always motivated by self-interest in bad things. Even me. Maybe I'm projecting.
Yeah, I don't know. And then also there's the Greek philosophers, the cynics.
Yeah. Jesse, the guy that asked the question, he does not come off as sarcastic or cynical at all. So maybe he's the only one. That's why I said he didn't belong on Twitter.
I know. You read his tweets, and there's the most positive guy you've ever met.
Yeah. How do people follow him? What are they looking for? What's his handle? He's just a blast.
Yeah.
I love him.
Where
Jesse, is it spelled white man?
It's WIGHTMAN. If you search my name, or probably your name, if you search my name on Twitter, correctly spelled, you'll find a lot of his. Oh, here he
Yeah,
is.
he always responds positive. Like if I'll say, Earthworm Jim raised $785,000, Jesse will say, like, Doug, laying down the truth about Earthworm Jim raising $785,000. And it just makes me smile a little bit. I'm going like, at first, there was like, 10 a day.
He
I'm
always
going
thanks
like,
you for tweeting.
yeah, I'm going like, dude, what's wrong? And then now I'm like, he's part of my feed and I like seeing him.
It's Jesse, Jesse Whiteman, WIGHTMAN 1 with the number 1.
Everyone
He's got
follow him.
Picture of a horse. Give him the follows.
Give him a follow. Jesse Whiteman, laying down the truth all the time. That's a very Jesse Whiteman.
I wasn't following him. I'm following him now.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, next.
Next question.
Do we have another question? Are we almost done?
Let's see where we're on time here. We're just about 40 minutes.
Okay.
I'll cap it off with a final.
Couple more. I have to get back. I'm editing Earthworm Jim.
Okay.
It's killing me.
Editing?
Yeah, I'm at the end. We're getting it ready for digital pre-press for it to go to the printer.
This is Dave Brown. This is another big question. He says, character development. I love listening to you guys, and I feel like the more you drill down on the art, the better it gets. Or, just talk about Mike some more. Tell stories. So I want to know about character development. How do we write our characters?
Character dev. Well, for me, the hero is always different than the other characters because he really is the core and the heart of the story and the theme, whatever it's about. Usually he embodies it, or he's going to go through it, or he's the one that the audience is going to see is doing the big movement. And I think it needs to be one character or a group of characters that represent one character. For instance, in The Incredibles is a whole family that goes through the same kind of transformation. They're like one character. But usually it's one guy or one gal. So I always start with a theme and then build out a character from the kind of what the whole story is about, what it's wrestling with. And I put it into a person.
Yes, I feel like this is a thing that I still don't have like a solid grasp on, like or a process for. Like I don't feel like I'm just not that experienced enough in writing great characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I have.
Well, the other thing is
Go ahead.
There's no rule. So if I'm telling you a rule, I'm giving you this is how I do it. It's very successful. It represents our culture. It doesn't mean, because there's no true limits to story. Why not write a story with no characters? I don't care.
Yeah.
Make it like a documentary about the woods and there's no one character. So it's not that you have to do it. I'm just saying when I'm dealing in mass media, I'm always thinking, what will put butts in the seat? Mm-hmm. And then suddenly I have to start addressing kind of where culture's at, even though it's illiterate and stupid. And then I just go, I want to entertain these people, give them some entertainment, usually just to alleviate suffering. Mm-hmm. Or provide distraction or entertain, or get them to think, whatever. It doesn't have to be that important. But writing character, I think the best study for writing characters got to be like the Coen brothers, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who makes better characters than the Coen brothers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's kind of two kinds of characters. I mean, there's your two-dimensional character and your one-dimensional character. And I think both are important. Like I think like Dickens has great one-dimensional characters that are like, they're just supporting, and they are always kind of on, they're not complex. They're one-note characters, but they're just fun.
Shakespeare does that too.
Yeah, they're really fun. Yep. But yeah, I think...
And they can be crazy. They can be the fool. They can be the bitter mother-in-law. They can be the vendor or whatever, or the salesman, the scummy salesman. You just kind of go, it doesn't have to be some giant arc or anything. And that's...
they don't have an arc.
Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Coen brothers characters, you look at those people and I just go, man, that is a wonderful person that I want to see a story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he's in this scene. He's cracking me up. It's very rare that they miss with their characters.
Yeah, that's the trickiest part, is making the character interesting, like a person you want to be around.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying for.
And they're a parable about us. Mm-hmm. So they're interesting, even if they're one-dimensional, because they're just like people that you might see at the store, where which one's going to stand out among all the others, right? You don't want some, you just don't want someone who's uneventful. What do you call those people? They have that guy is not a character. Right? And then a wacky guy, whatever, you go, what a character.
Yeah,
he stands out.
Yeah, or they got they have a point of view, or I mean, that's always the question I have to ask about my characters, and I find it seems so simple, but it's so hard. Like, what do they want? And you really have to get into it, because if a character doesn't want anything, they become instantly boring.
Yeah, what do they want? What do they need is a big question they asked at Nickelodeon on all their animated series. Another good study is like walk-on characters on sitcoms. They'll always have that one guy.
Yeah, like Kramer. There's like that's a one-dimensional character for sure.
Yeah.
He never has an arc.
But also, or Putty. Like obscure characters that you see on multiple different sitcoms. Like they always come in, and when they need an old man, they get that guy. Or when they need the fast-talking salesman, they get that guy. And you see him across, especially they did this a lot in the late 70s and 80s, of guys that would be on all these different shows, and you just go, whoa, it's that guy. Or they're in commercials or whatever. But I mean, to me, if you can't write a character, I don't see how you can write. Because otherwise you're going to create kind of vague beings, and it's no fun the human mind wants to make connections, right? You want to put handles on things that mean things so that you know what to do with them. To me, that's what a character is. It's just putting handles on someone. Are they quiet? Are they introverted? Are they extroverted? Are they mad? Are they happy? Whatever. They're types.
Yeah.
They're just types, and I think the thinner they are, the worse they are. That's why I think of Coen Brothers characters as so rich. They just seem so thick. They get the best actors and everything. That's what I want to write.
Yeah,
is those kinds of characters. And you see it come out in the Bible too. If you see, like, people always talk about the difference between Peter and Paul, or John, and Judas, or the sons of Zebedee. Like, mothers bragging about their kids. There's so much character everywhere. Goliath. When he's mocking the Jews, saying, when David comes out, he's like, did you bring a dog? Am I supposed to throw a stick at it or whatever? And it's just, they're cool characters.
Yeah.
Wonderfully. Epic. Legendary.
Yeah, I find a good way that helps me write my characters, or to kind of think about them, is whatever your main character is dealing with, a lot of your surrounding characters, they're all dealing with the same thing, but they're responding in a different way. Like, that's something on Bearmageddon is my main character he's really on a search for manliness. Like, he's at this place of being a total slacker loser, and he doesn't want to accept the responsibility of becoming a man. And that's where all his friends are at, and they've all responded in different ways.
Yeah, so that keeps them all on topic, right?
Yeah, so one's, says,
otherwise you're just slamming things into a story.
Yeah.
The character Nedry in Jurassic Park, played by Wayne Knight, the fat guy, he's a completely different character than the other characters in that story, but he has a huge part in that story, in what he does. So just because they're dealing with the same issue of what the story's about doesn't mean they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You have to keep them kind of on topic so that they belong in the story. Otherwise it's like, well, that's what you call a non sequitur, is when it doesn't follow. Or it's just incongruous or whatever, unless your story's about incongruity.
Yeah, so sorry I don't have more tips, Dave Brown. I feel like characters are a thing you find. You figure them out. You do your best. And that's one reason it's good to not hide, like, get around some real characters in real life and,
Yeah, and write what you love.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows people that are a character. All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's it. Oh yeah, that would be another tip for me for character. I always try to think of a voice that I like of a person that I know. I'll try to kind of give a character it's not a copy, but like just to give them their own flavor. Anyway, so
yeah, if you know someone in real life that stands out for any reason, they always show up in my stories. Someone like them always shows up in my stories.
All right, well, we did 3 questions. We did it. We got another episode done. Right in the nick of time. We got to get one for next week.
We got to
keep it
dump
up.
this thing out, then record another. Give me another time this week, and we'll do it
Try.
again.
During
See
the
if we
week, it's
get to-
been hard with everything. My schedule's been crazy.
I know. Since when did you?
It's more that
be-
this requires me to be in a quiet place without anything else going on.
Mike is so unavailable, and now you're unavailable, and I'm busier than both of you guys, and I'm always available.
Yeah, I think it's that you have. Well, I know that for me, if my kids were older, like yours are right now, I'd be able to kind of hide away and do more.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, is just having younger kids.
You know
But
what you do,
and
Ethan?
even like my office is a shared office, so it'd be harder to do this in the office.
You know what you do, Ethan? You take Daddy's belt and you just lay it outside the door, coiled
Teach
up,
them
and
to be
then close
silent.
the door.
They'd just take it and hit each other and be screaming.
You'd hit the dog.
Be way louder.
All right. Well, have a good week, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for the questions.
Go to church. Go to church.
Yeah, go to church on Sunday. We'll see you next time, huh?
Audio mullet, a mullet of audio smashing you in the face. Audio mullet, short in front, long in back. It's a fact. It's the audio mullet.
Yeah, it's going to be good, buddy. Hey, thanks for hanging with me, Ethan. I just can't wait to talk to you again.
You too.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good.
Is this ever going to end?
I think the ending is in there somewhere.
I think you should keep putting this on. Just keep tacking it on right over the theme song of us talking over it.
Add it as a tag at the end. Can do that.
Yeah, or pot it down and run it over the song.
Okay. Sounds good.
Amen.
Amen.
The end. Hold on,
All right.
hold on. I thought of something else.
Oh, okay. Is it on character or is it on cynicism?
Then you end it.
Okay.
It's the audio mullet.